viewers, welcome back to the Self-Made Auto channel. I've got the old WJ up on the lift. It's been sitting for whenever since we made the last video, a couple months, 2-3 months anyways. Haven't been driving it. However, prior to not driving it, I did take it out and did a little bit of wheeling, just beating it around the house and stuff like that. And I developed a pretty harsh clunk in the front end, so I was like, I'm just gonna park it. Just ran out of time basically. Long story short, the bushing in the top of the axle housing here that goes to the third link on the 3-link setup that we put in it, the bushing is no good. The downside to it is that's a brand new bushing. It's a brand new Mopar bushing that I put in there. And not only has it popped it out of the housing, so it's not sitting in there all the way, it's also, the bushing itself is junk. The whole center section of it is gone. A little disappointed in that. I don't know if you guys remember way back when we first started this, we're putting these arms on, I was like, this bushing's junk, we're gonna have to get it. So I just got it one day, popped it in there, it wasn't a huge deal. I don't think it likes the amount of articulation that this thing has in the front end when you're out, giving it the beans, I think is what kind of kiboshed this. So what I've done is I went online and I see Iron Rock actually makes this bushing in the same style bushing as like what we put in the other control arms there, they're flex joints. So I'm going to take and beat this out of the housing, and we're going to put theirs in. Now, I did read on the instructions, you can actually weld them in once you put their new one in. So we're going to see how it fits before we do that. Of course, that bushing is going to have a lot more flexibility than just this rubber mounted one. So I've never put one in there. It looks pretty delicate, so hopefully we can get it in without destroying it. I think there was like, I don't remember what I paid for it, 30 or 40 bucks, something like that. So hopefully it all goes well, and then we assemble it all inside here. And then we'll hook our arm back up to it. So all I've done right now is had to get it running. Been sitting so long, battery's just about whipped. Took it for a drive, burned all the rust off the brake rotors, which I'm ashamed to say that did not do them any good sitting, but it is what it is. So let's get started. I want to see if we can just knock this out of here. Keep going, I guess. There it is. Made in Canada. She's all wired out. And I bet it doesn't have, well, I know it doesn't have 100 miles on it. It definitely does not like how this front end moves, I'll tell you that. So this is the cup, or what they call it. I don't know, they've got some official term for it here. I don't know what we'll call it. We'll call it the outer bushing, I guess. And the problem is going to be, apparently they make an installation tool for it. We don't want to damage it or deform it. This is pretty precisely built. And when these bushings are in all the way, you can see it has a step on it here. Hopefully you guys can see that. That's as far in as it goes. It only goes in. So if you ever look under these, Grand Cherokees or Cherokees for that matter, anything that has this front axle, this bushing always sticks out. It looks like it's kind of popped out. I'm going to get a little seal driver. I want to see if we can just tap it. I want to see how it feels before we start, rigging up the press or something on there. Wants to go cockeyed on me. You can't have that. Because we definitely don't want to distort it just because of the way that this thing is put together with all of its bits that go on the inside. With the collar, it's going to go in there, the bolts, the two bushings, center section, all that stuff. So I've got to come up with a way that we can push this in nice and straight. The housing's pretty clean in there. I'll see what I can come up with. Alright, so here's the setup. I just got the ball joint press using that aluminum seal driver that I have, or bushing driver, whatever that aluminum chunk was kicking around here for. I'm going to see if we can put a little bit of tension on it. I tapped the bushing in by hand about as far as it would go. I just want to make sure it's going straight. The receiver cup here, I should have enough room for that to come through. So I'm just going to kind of take it easy. not going to blast it with an impact, much as I want to. Felt like it got stiff. I just want to make sure where it's coming through, it's going inside my receiver because I don't want to bend that flange up. If that makes sense. So where this is, you know, if this is the bushing where it's pushing through, if that hits the edge of my receiver cup, it could tweak that flange. I just want to make sure that's all good. Nope, we're not even through yet, so we're good. Keep trucking. Felt like it got a little stiff there. I just want to double check. Yeah, we're just to the edge right now. It's just about flush. So I'll try to center this up the best I can here. And then we're just going to press it in until it hits that step. So we're pretty dang close right now. My ratchet so I can see. Getting pretty snug. Alright, I'm gonna say we're good. She got pretty stiff. So it just comes through maybe, oh gosh, not very far. 1/16 of an inch through on the other side. Now this is what I read in the directions. I think, if I read this correctly, and they write, where is it? Here we go. Remove existing bushing if necessary. Punch, sawzall, install the press into the outer tube. Installation tools sold separately. Highly recommended. If not using their tool, avoid damaging. Where are we at here? Ensure the tube is fully seated in place. Use a hammer and a punch, 3/8 diameter punch works well. Bend the thin edge of the flex tube outward to lock in place. So the piece that we just drove in is the flex tube. And I'm assuming what they're talking about is this little edge that sticks out over here that they want us to just take and peen that in place. Up here it also says, somewhere as I read it, that these are weld on or press in. So I assume, you know, if we chose to do so, we could weld it in. It pressed in quite well. I'm going to make sure that the guts still go in it, and they do. So that's a plus. So I think we will take their advice. We'll take a punch. I'll spin you around here. We're going to go on the back side because I definitely don't want this coming out again. I don't want to be in the same boat I was in. And we're just going to peen this around, even though it fit really well. Going to come in with a punch. Like I say, this edge is just barely sticking out, so we just want to kind of peen it in at least a couple spots. At least that's how I envisioned what I read. I could be totally wrong, but so I went around it with a punch, and then I can't get the very top radius of it because, you know, you can't get the punch in, you know, in that direction. So I got 70% of it anyways. And I found that the ball peen portion of the ball peen hammer seemed to work just as well as the punch. And as hard as that went in, or as well as it pressed in, I don't think we're going to have any issue with it coming out anyways. So now we just got to assemble the joint you guys have seen in my other videos of the WJ here, how that went down. Same style stuff here. We're going to get one of these inner races put in, you know, and the joint's going to go in here like so. And then we've got a couple of the Allen keys here, or the socket head bolts, I guess it would be. Now these only go on the flange one way. They're recessed. We'll line that up, and then we'll grease up that bushing, stick the inner piece in, and then we'll line up the other side. Now this one doesn't have any nuts to hold. They are pre-threaded, 3 of them on each one. Like I said, they're recessed there, so get some grease in there. Let's see if we can't get it together. Get it together, man! I think I have a tendency to over-grease them. I don't think they need a ton of grease, but the bigger the glob, the better the job. Okay, here we go. There's that. Look at our little ball here. There's plenty of grease in there, so not too worried about that. Flip this around the correct way. And then we have to, when I reach through, I'm going to line up a couple of the bolt holes, which went relatively easy. I was going to say sometimes it can be a little tricky, but I think they just lined up for me. Alright, I'll put the lock plate on it. You know what would be a smarter idea is put a couple bolts in this. Find them. There you go. That'd be using your noodle, fella. There we go. That way we can line up the threaded holes with the non-threaded holes. You know what I mean? I guess it doesn't matter which side we start on. We'll get the plates started. The retainers, whatever you want to call them. And then I'm just going to go through and put all the rest of the bolts in and torque it down. I think the spec on it was 20 inch-pounds. But I'm just going to go through and just get them all in, get them all started, kind of tighten them up in a little crisscross pattern. And then we'll come back through and just double check them with a torque wrench. So got those tight now. The tricky part. Let's see if we can get her lined back up. I don't know. Got it on a training jack. Yeah, I gotta tip it back. I don't know if I can just shove a screwdriver in there. We can roll the axle ahead a little bit. Look at that. So it should be pretty close. Let's see. Yeah, let's see. Let me get a little alignment bar. There she comes. Snug that baby up. So there we are. That's it. We don't even have to set this one down and tighten it up because of the way that bushing rotates and articulates. It doesn't matter if it's up in the air or on the ground. All right, folks, that's it. Now I know in this one, my old bushing, came out a lot easier than yours is probably gonna if yours is still the the OG that's still in there. Usually they're pretty well whipped, so you can knock the center out like this one did in that case. Probably the easiest thing to do is just go in there with a Sawzall, go down through, just cut the sleeve, cut up through it, cut the other half of the sleeve, and then just beat it out of there. Why this OEM one that I stuck in there didn't last, I don't know. I can only assume because it articulates too much. I don't know. I drove it for a little bit with the original bushing that was pretty well hammered, but I don't know. Either case, I probably should have just done this from the get-go. Went together pretty well. No complaints. So go down, click subscribe, look for the rest of the videos here on the WJ. I'll put them all on a playlist if you want to catch up to where we're at right now. And I'll try to record some more of the stuff that we're going to do. I'm trying to get it ready. I actually have an obligation to have it ready by the first week of February because there's a local poker run. We want to go on that. So I'm going to try to get it done so I can at least drive it once in a while. Go down, ring the bell, click subscribe, all that stuff. And just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.